Punk Rock Elite, a podcast about NOFX.
This is another episode of Punk Rock Elite. This is our second episode where we're getting to know our my co-host, Eddie French. Eddie, hello to you.
Hello, Red. You all right?
I'm very well, thank you. How's your week been?
Oh, it's been. It's been. I've been looking forward to this chat, to be honest, because we were supposed to do it at a different time, and then time got away from us. So yeah, but no, happy about it.
It did, but we are here now, and we're going to learn all about Mr. Eddie French, who I believe you're based Leeds way, not Leeds,
Yes,
but near Leeds.
Yeah, I've got a Leeds postcode. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting for you.
Yeah, I know.
Excellent.
Very proud of it. Wear it on my neck.
I'm based here in Sheffield currently. I've just moved here. How are you finding Yorkshire? Are you a fan of the Yorkshire?
Yeah, no, I've always liked Yorkshire. I moved here when I was 9, so I've lived here apart from a brief stint in Madrid. So yeah, no, I love Yorkshire. It's a great place to be.
We're both like secret Southerners, really, because I was born down south and then I moved up north when I was like 10 or something.
Same. Yep.
And, same for you. So we're
born
like
in Brighton. So yeah,
we're like stealth poshos.
Well, but what's good is that I still have a southern accent, but I use Yorkshire dialect words, so it just baffles everyone. So I won't be there long. While 10, like while 10? Do you mean until 10? No, I mean while 10. It's the same thing. Yep. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, obviously we're here to talk about NOFX. This is what the podcast is about. If you're unaware of NOFX, why are you listening? But we're going to learn about Eddie's relationship with NOFX, everything that they love about them. Let's start with, what is your favourite NOFX song?
Favourite NOFX song? We're starting with the questions. Oh, wow, that's cool. Favourite NOFX song? Hard, because I sort of want to disqualify The Decline, because it's such a unique thing within their oeuvre. Do punk bands have oeuvres? They probably do.
It's 5 songs.
It's at least, yeah. And it's great, and I absolutely love it. And I think lyrically, it's some of the best work. The music's all great. It does everything that you want NOFX to do. But they take 8, and I'm trying to think, do they have a song where they can do that in 2.5 minutes? And I'm not sure, because you've got the sort of the jaunty bit in the middle, you've got sort of the slow bit, you've got the build up, you've got the brass, you've got puns, you've got all the sort of like the checklist of the sort of the platonic ideal of NOFX. But I suppose sort of early on, Laurie Myers I adore from Punk in Drublic.
Sure.
Partly because Kim Shattuck, I think that's how you pronounce her name, but sadly gone now from the Muffs. Her vocals on it are amazing. Gosh, all sorts. I'm Telling Tim from So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes. There's just something. It's just it's sort of very urgent. I don't know. It's so difficult. I think today probably Laurie Myers.
Fair enough. Good choice.
Don't ask me every week, because that'll be boring. But yeah, Laurie Myers, I think.
Well, before we get into like the bulk of the other questions, I think our listeners would love to know like more about yourself. So Eddie, you're a comedian, you're a writer, a podcaster, an improviser. When did you start performing comedy?
Started performing comedy at the beginning of 2010. Yes, a terrifyingly long time ago, when the world was young and new and blinking into the bright sunshine of the early morning.
Pre-TikTok.
Yeah, it was pre-TikTok, absolutely. I mean, I think the world was only just allowed to all have Facebook at that time. It was, before, it was fairly new. MySpace was still happening to a certain degree, but basically, yeah, I'd done I'd been interested in showing off since I was young, and I sort of did a bit of sort of youth theatre when I was very little, and then when I was about 12, a guy, my dad was in a covers band, like a wedding band,
Hmm.
and the singer and guitarist from that band had a son, same age as me. We went to the same primary school, and Owen started a band. That was his name. He knew that I had access to a bass guitar and amplifier, and I lived around the corner, and went, I'm going to ask the weird kid to join in. And they just never found another bass player. So I was in a band called Inertia Crisis for from the age of like
That's
12,
quite fun. I
13.
was briefly in a band called Inertia when I was
Really?
16.
Oh, wow.
We did one. We did one gig.
Oh, wow. We did more than one. We did quite a few. And then,
Oh, hey, I was in other bands, and Inertia
sure.
was one
Yeah.
of the lesser ones, but
Oh,
still.
Stepping Stone, of course. Yeah, no, I was going to say we all have those. I didn't really, because we did that for 5 or 6 years until the drummer Will and I went to university. We went to different schools, so we didn't know that we'd applied for the same university course at the same university separately. And then saw each other at the open day, and we're like, "What? What is?" Hmm? And then Owen stayed in York and ended up being in the recently reformed Colour of Fire. For any Placebo fans out there who might have watched Placebo in the noughties, there's a chance you'd have seen Colour of Fire supporting them as they were label mates. Um, and so and it was through that sort of I got into sort of music and stuff. I'd always liked and I think that's partly why NoFX appealed when I heard them, because one of the first things I heard of theirs was I heard they suck live, and the amount
Great,
of
yeah.
stage chat in that and the joking and the mucking around,
And
because
that's their live album. That's their first live album.
the
Because
first live album they did, yes, which was um I'm not sure if it was before or after Punk and Drublick, because I don't recall there being any Punk and Drublick songs on there, but I could be wrong.
it was definitely before. What's this? Is it they've actually gotten worse live?
Yes,
It's the
yes, they've
second.
actually gotten worse live, which I think is a great joke, but really just not true. It's sort of it's. I mean, that's the self-deprecation in it, but they've not gotten worse live. They're I've only ever seen them better and better, but that's practice, I guess. But yeah, so I was like, oh wow, you can be in a band and be funny. That's exciting. And then I didn't know what to do. I went through all sorts of. I was in a non-functioning double act
Mhm.
after university. Me and my friend Gav, we were the last men in Europe. We did a radio show, like a radio sketch show for Gav's final dissertation piece. He did radio production at university. That's where I met him. And then we did two live shows just once each. One of which was actually quite good because we did our first one at the sort of beginning of August one year. Then we went to the Fringe for a week to watch, and we saw a group called The Trap, and it was that thing where it's that thing where people sort of went, oh yeah, I walked out of that Sex Pistols gig in 76 and cut all my hair off, and we basically sort of did that, but just through all our ting-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Good morning, sir. Hello, I'd like to buy something improbable. Well, we are an improbable shop, so here, buy this thing. Oh, that's very funny. All those sketches, and threw them in the bin because the Trap were remarkable, and that kind of thing. So, and then we did one other show, which was basically a spare show for the Trap in case they were ever caught short. And then Gav went, I'm too old for this. You go and do it. So then I moved to Spain and taught English there for a few years, and was a tour guide. And after doing tour guiding, where you talk to people for 4 hours, just trying to be interesting, I thought I can be funny for 5 minutes. So when I came back to the UK, I finally started doing comedy, and then got shanghaied into an improv group as well. So.
And I believe while you were out in Spain, you met someone who is, related to punk rock royalty.
I did, yes. I met my friend Celeste, who is the daughter of polystyrene. We were both teachers for the same company. Well, very good. I nearly
That's
nearly skipped
cool.
that. I nearly had to give up my elite status then. I'm like, no, actually, I have spoken to. Yeah, she's in. I don't know if they're still going, but she was in a couple of bands out there, sort of punkier edged ska kind of thing with her husband. There was Debutante Disco, and then I think they changed their name to Celeste dos Santos and the Tabloid Queens.
Cute.
And yeah, yeah. But they were very good. I remember enjoying them. I actually saw NoFX when I was in Madrid.
Oh,
They
really?
played, yeah, yeah. They were playing. I can't remember the name of the venue. It was slightly outside the centre, but it was sort of. It was like a very small arena or a very large theatre, indoor, and they had the Loved Ones and Tat in support, and they played The Decline there because Tatiana from Tat played guitar at the end, and they have someone come out to play Hefe's guitar while he's playing the trombone at the end of it, and then da 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 that bit.
Okay, great. Well, we spoke about your favorite NoFX song. Let's make that question a little bit bigger. What's your favorite NoFX album?
That has swung around a little bit, but I always come back to So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes.
Mm.
I think
So
it was. Gone.
would it have been a difficult decision then for you? Because obviously the final NoFX UK shows have been announced. They have two dates. One
Mm,
of them, which we're going to in
yes,
Leeds, they're playing Punk in Drublic and Wolf in Wolves Clothing.
yes.
And then further down south, they're doing another date where they're doing So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes. And what's the Is it War on
White
Heroism
Trash.
or? Oh, okay.
I think it's White Trash. Yeah. Well, it was hard, but it's in Hatfield or something like that, and
Yeah.
it's a long way, and I can't logistically or financially, pardon me, rationalize it. It is a shame. I've seen them do pretty much most of the standout tracks that I really like from those at various times that I've seen them. Also, I'm comforting myself with the idea that there are songs that they kind of always play, irrespective of whether they're doing a full album or not,
Yeah.
because it's unlikely they're going to do these last shows without playing, for example, Bob,
Yeah.
because it takes a minute and a half and people will do their nut if they don't hear Bob. So things like maybe Eat the Meek, they may well play side
Hmm.
thing when they if they're doing those 12 songs in 6 minutes, and their little mini marathon ones. Telling Tim shows up in there quite a lot, or Monosyllabic Girl, or any of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to. I try not to hang up too much stuff on need to bucket list things. I find less rewarding than most people. I think I find them more anxiety inducing. So I'm not too fussed about what they play. I'm just happy to see them again before they go, and you know try and work on that level of gratitude rather than because it did hurt. I did think, what had Temple Newsome done to you that you wouldn't play my favorite one? And they weren't to know. That's that's not their fault. But yeah, no. The reason I love um, So Long is partly that it's one of their fastest ones. It's sort
Yeah,
of
it isn't at all,
continually
no.
fast. It's a hardcore album. It's also I think the first time I sort of really had heard something that different to other stuff. It was because we yeah, I would have been very young or very, very youngish, maybe 12 or something like that. And 12, well, no, 13, 14. And because of when I was, because of my age, sort of indie and Britpop was the prevailing sound when
Hmm.
I was a teenager. So, I was 11 when Kurt Cobain died. And that same year was also when Oasis released their first album, when Blur released one of their important albums. I forget which
Hmm.
one, but that was the whole thing, and sort of navel gazy, grungy stuff. All this sort of internal angst and stuff. It's sort of been swept away, and we had sort of rock stars again, people who liked being in people who appeared to like being in bands, people who were sort of enjoying strutting about swagger, Liam Gallagher and all of these kind of people, and whatever you think about them, they were those types were rock stars in
Yeah.
that they were wearing, you know footy shirts and stuff like that, but they were still swaggering around, enjoying themselves, wanting to be seen to be in the limos and the bags of coke and all that stuff instead of, Kurt Cobain wore cardigans. Is a big switch. So had I been 5 years older, I might have found all of that incredibly distasteful, and they don't understand. Oh, honestly, that guitar looks new. Ugh, and that kind of thing. So hearing something, and so a lot of the music at that time was very mid tempo,
Yeah.
and you might have, you know, Radiohead do a fast bit, but because of art rather than because of it being exciting, and all of this stuff, and it was sort of left me a little bit cold. And then I heard this, and these songs, they were so short, but they didn't need to be any longer because they weren't putting in big intros or doubling choruses and stuff. They were just going, this is what needs to be said in this song, so we're doing it. And that was exciting.
I think So Long's really interesting because it's not. I would say it's far from their most like ferocious album, um, but I actually think it's shows a lot of like consideration and thoughtfulness when compared to other music of the time,
Mm.
and particularly other punk music of the time. Um,
Well, absolutely. Well, I think they were over 30 by that point as well.
right, yeah,
And I think that does make a difference. And and I think it was a very, very quick album, because I remember reading the liner notes. I've read the liner notes to every CD I've ever owned. Something I miss about the digital age. And that was also how you
yeah.
found out about other bands, because you'd be looking through it and you're going, well, they're thanking this band called Lagwagon. I mean, I can't see them doing very much, but all right, then I'll keep an eye out for them and stuff like that. And so, because in all of those sort of Fat Wreck and Epitaph and just punk, like, everyone they'd ever toured with, borrowed a cigarette from, said hello to, would end up in the liner notes, and it was just this trove of sound you have to go and seek out and stuff like that. So you got all of that, and in it, I think they said that all the vocals were done in like one take, apart from maybe Eat the Meek, which is a bit more, but I seem to recall that being the thing. So I think it was a very, very rapid album,
That's
because the
very
one
interesting.
because
I
the
didn't
one
know that
before
at
it was
all.
Heavy Petting Zoo, which is a bit of an anomaly in that there's some very slow stuff, there's some really weird stuff, um, and apparently they laboured on it for a long time, and so the next one they made, they wanted it to be really quick. Also, I think the tone of the album is very trebly. There's not a lot of bottom end,
Yes, yeah.
even on the bass, like the Kids of the K-hole, like ding 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 right at the beginning.
Hmm.
There's very little low end to it. I don't know if they're making way for the kick drum or what, but so production wise, it's an interesting one. But yeah, there are songs that hit harder
Yeah.
as a whole. But yeah, I'm telling Tim's on there. Punk Rock Elites, that we named the podcast after. Um, yeah, Monosyllabic Girl, All Out of Angst, Falling in Love, the one at the end. That's really, really great. So yeah.
No, I think that's a great choice. I think it's arguably the closest they've come to a seminal album. I think like between this and Punk and Drublic tend to be the two albums that people look towards. But I actually think if you lay them down side by side, I think So Long is just a little bit more of a quintessential NoFX album.
It, I think it's their sort of, for me, it's their quintessential fast album.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
one of the things I've seen people complain about, like on Bandcamp and stuff like that, which is where I tend to get music these days. When you sort of go to Bandcamp and you look on the people put little reviews or any sort of new video they put out for anything on the last handful of albums, people have gone, another slow NoFX album. I remember, mind you, you can also go on there's one upload of the full album of Liberal Animation, and there's always someone who just goes, "This is the best NoFX album." Yeah, you're very punk, darling. We all know. It's very good of you. Well done. It's adorable. And again, if it's your favorite, have your favorite. But come on, let's not play best. That's
I,
just for nerds.
I'm always like surprised at like how much people like bitch about like how much NoFX fans will bitch about NoFX albums
Oh
because
yeah, yeah.
they've made so many and they've
Mm,
made so many in recent years as well that like
mm.
if you didn't like this one, just wait 12 months. There'll be
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah, I mean, I sure know how to pick him because I really love NoFX. I really like Doctor Who, and the only people who hate NoFX and Doctor Who more than anyone else are fans of NoFX and Doctor Who. They just can't bear the thing they love, and
What about Star Trek fans?
well,
We're,
exactly.
we're,
Yeah,
we're just as bad.
I like also yeah, Star Wars fan, anything, any sort of major anything, but there are no, the Lord of the Rings fans, right? As long as they've got the book, so they're like, well, that's fine. Yeah, no, we love all of this. And then anything that gets adapted, they're like, oh, how did you get into Lord of the Rings? Oh, I watched the films like a normal person who's the billion people who've already seen these films. I'm just like one of them. Oh, sorry, I thought you were a fan. And it's they've got that, but we've just got what is put out. Anyway, tangent, but yeah. So yeah, that's the thing is that NoFX is one of those bands that gets bitched about by their own fans more than any music critic has ever been upset about.
I find it weird because like I quite enjoyed First Ditch Attempt, which is
Mm,
one of their more recent albums.
yeah.
I didn't love it, but I really enjoyed it. But I remember by the time I'd kind of like finished listening through that all the way through, and I felt like I was really familiar with the album. By the time I'd done that, their next album, double album, was already out. So I feel
Mm.
like people complaining about the quality, it's just like just wait a little bit.
Yeah, and there's
Like,
apparently another at least two more full lengths in the pipeline that we're
yeah.
getting once they've stopped touring and all that kind of stuff. And again,
And they're not
I
short albums either. Like they are full length
yeah.
albums.
Yeah, they're not just throwing out an EP and going hee that's yours.
Have you seen No Effect? I mean, actually, I don't. I think it's relatively recently. No Effects did a gig in, I think it's just like Fat Mike's backyard and put it out on YouTube, like a
Oh
full
yeah.
60-minute show.
Mm,
And I loved that for, I mean, obviously, we've seen them before. They're always a little bit self deprecating. They
mm.
really go hard on that in that recording.
Yeah.
Um,
I
they're
think
like,
it's yeah, I
saying
think
that they're like, oh, we invited this band, they haven't turned up. We invited this person from this band, they didn't turn up.
oh yeah,
Like,
yeah,
no one
yeah.
likes us anymore.
That's just I think that is just the gobshitery of it all, which is funny. I think it was sort of in one of the sort of eased lockdowns as well. So most people are wearing
Yeah,
masks and stuff, and
yeah,
yeah, because the Bomb Pops played. No, was it? No, Bad Cop played. I think Fishbone played as well.
sure.
There was also they were all sat around the pool and stuff. But they did that was when they did all of White Trash,
Yeah.
and I think and there's some bangers on White Trash, and there's also Buggly Eyes just tacked on at the end, and it's sort of which is it's fine, and it's it's actually quite a well done little sort of pastiche of that kind of weird jazz thing, but I think they were still leaning heavily on the novelty of having Hefe in the band who played trumpet and understood how to play jazz music, and could do voices and things like that. So, but yeah, no, they've always, yeah, I don't know, but you can never tell how serious they're being when they're mucking around, and that is part of the fun. Like, when like how Mike has often said proudly, I bullied Under Oath so badly they left the Warp Tour because they were a creationist Christian act who and he had a started just spending every day going throughout their set going, did you know Under Oath don't believe in dinosaurs? And just like I think there's footage of him online attending they had a Bible study on the Warp Tour for the first time ever, and there are all these, and it's weird how young these lads are because they've got beards and stuff, but they've also all got braces, and I'm like, oh shit, they're not even 20, like they're all of these kids, and they're sort of, and they're really down on themselves, and yeah, and Mike visits their Bible study. I mean, it is a bit of a jerk move because they're just trying to sit there and talk about their thing and like, whatever, do you, but he's just sort of wandering around going, hi, what's going on? I like bondage and coke, what do you do? And it's like, yeah, we know you do, Mike. This isn't news, darling, come on.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
let's move on to next question
Oh
we've
yeah.
got. So what's your favorite NoFX lyric? This is a hard one. I
It
found
is
this
hard
hard.
because they all immediately leave my mind.
That's what happened to me.
It is, yeah. It's a really unfair one. It's super unfair.
Oh, I,
Um,
I worked out what lyric I really enjoyed from seeing Double at the Triple Rock.
oh
It,
yes.
it, I just quite like the bit where they say, "Please don't make us leave." I just think it's a really funny, desperate thing to say.
Yeah, it is, yeah. There's oh gosh. I know for a fact it's not any of the jokey lyrics.
Hmm.
Even though I do like some of them and they are funny, and but I know it'll be one of the more serious ones. It might be. I'm going to answer again. I'm going to cheat and say for today because the one that sort of sprung to mind is it's sort of a two-parter because I consider these songs to be original and sequel,
Hmm.
which is She's Gone from White Trash and She Didn't Lose Her Baby, which I think was that on Coaster? No. I forget. But they're two, I think they're in the same key. They're sort of both about um, sort of women who have not been helped.
Hmm.
And they're similar sort of tempos, and they've both got similar sort of tonal guitar solos and stuff. But yeah, the stuff um it's just heartbreaking. Is about, yeah, she about this woman who's was on drugs and her baby was taken away. um he didn't. She didn't scream. She had a look of resign. His eyes never looked back into hers. He went right to the nurse. One blink and he was gone. And it's heartbreaking, even when recited monotonally like that. It's a really, really effective sort of narrative in it,
Mm.
and I think it shows that when I think it's sort of twofold. One, and it's just how good that is in general, and how straight to the point and how un unflowery and sort of blunt it is as a description of this horrible situation. But also it means that whenever Mike has written less serious lyrics, that suggests that that was a clear decision,
Hmm.
a very specific choice, not one done because he is unable to do anything more impressive, and that's sort of, or more serious or more worthy, you know. So yeah, today I think those ones, yeah, She's Gone and She Didn't Lose Her Baby, those two songs, which I think are sort of parts one and two. Yeah.
I think those are really interesting choices. I think those are good choices. And it's also reminded me of like a NoFX song that I'd forgotten about, and I'd forgotten about like kind of like how powerful it is. But like because I also like his more thoughtful songs.
Mm.
I love My Orphan Year off of Coaster,
Oh yeah.
about the year that both of Fat Mike's parents died. I think it was
Yes.
2006.
Mm.
And he, like, isn't it amazing that like they do so many songs about, I don't know, their different ethnicities, and I don't
Yeah.
know, uh, just silly things. But
Mm.
then they do have songs about real meaningful stuff. And like I know my favorite song choice was The Irrationality of Rationality.
Mm.
um and it's interesting that we go to those, like the more serious tracks from such a silly band.
I think I don't know. Isn't that the case with comedians though?
Mm.
Do you know any comedians who listen to like sort of light-hearted or like comedy music? Really, even
Well,
the
like Weird
musical.
Al.
Well, yeah, but even then, people, it's sort of. I mean, a bit of inside baseball for you here, guys. But if you're friends with a lot of comedians, um, on on Facebook, for example, you're more likely to see them going, "Mate, has anyone seen episode 6 of Narcos yet?" Than, "Oh, mate, have you seen this new comedian who's got good jokes?" Because
Yeah.
they see that at work. We don't need, people are
Yeah.
more likely to talk about, you know, Better Call Saul or whatever than, oh, this new true crime documentary where you see all the bits of them that came off, and because you do jokes at work, and when you come home, you just want to relax with a nice bit of violence.
Yeah, that's fair.
So maybe that's it. Maybe because I think people who, there are some people who definitely like NoFX because they are funny, and maybe aren't too bothered about the more serious aspects of what it is they do and have done. So, but maybe those are people who don't get to, arse around and exercise the humor part of their lives as frequently as we do. So I don't know. Psychoanalyze this in the psychologist's chair there, but
The next question is, what's your favorite memory of NoFX? Now, before I ask you this,
uh-huh.
I remembered one of my favorite NoFX moments.
Oh, cool.
When I saw them at Download Festival,
Mm.
one of the first things Mike said when he came out, he's like, "Hey, welcome to the Metal Festival. Who the fuck booked us for a metal festival?"
they love I've he loves playing metal festivals
I know,
because
right?
he absolutely adores it. There's a thing because he's got a distortion pedal for his bass that's heavy as fuck. I saw a video of him. It was at it was in Europe somewhere. It might have been the Netherlands or maybe Scandinavia. But he goes, here, you're going to enjoy this. And he turns it on and just goes, "Du, du, 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 du." He goes, "Yeah, you like that, don't you?" Just like really scornful. Really, just so antagonistic against people who are there to watch you. But yeah, I admire that because I always like that. Um, I always like that in sort of most things, a healthy disregard for the audience.
So what is
What's
your
mine?
favorite
Oh,
NoFX moment?
gosh, difficult to say, really. I think um, watching them do the Decline in Madrid, that was really, really great.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, it was just where we were in the crowd. The crowd themselves, watching that was really, really great.
What do you think is the best way for a non-fan of NoFX to get into the band?
Oh, tricky. Well, far be it from me to recommend a greatest hits album, but there's with a band like NoFX who've been going for a long time and they've got so many
That's
different.
where I started. I think. I mean, that's the first album of theirs that I purchased. Like, and it is a really good greatest
Yeah,
hits.
it is. Yeah, it is. But so many different style, sort of eras and whatnot. You can get a slice of all of it. I think, from that album. Another way to do it would be to take that person you would like to make into a NoFX fan and do a playlist.
Yeah.
Make a playlist, and if you know that they like humorous songs, front load it with the humorous songs. If you know that they are more ska oriented, front load it with the ska songs, all that kind of thing, because you can do that with NoFX, and I think that would make for a more personal, tailored way in. That's how I would do it anyway.
Okay, great. What do you think NoFX's legacy is? This is an interesting question, I think.
It really is. Gosh, I'm going to answer this in several ways. I think the legacy musically can be heard in so much of the pop punk that made it into like regular charts and stuff. You know, years later, Blink-182. Sum 41, even Bowling for Soup. I don't know how successful they were in the US, but they had a couple of sort of little radio hits in the UK and stuff. You can hear where those bits of NoFX shine through. That, coupled with the Fat Records aspect, they sort of really did carve out a sound.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, definitely.
A sound that they were sort of stealing from rich kids on LSD, as they would admit to. So I think there's that, which sort of can't really be underestimated. I think from a DIY perspective, they have managed to be an independent band. I was about to say sort of unknown or cult, but they're not really, because they are successful by any metric.
They're not the most cult and most unknown band ever, but like to say they're mainstream is just incorrect.
No, absolutely, they're not mainstream in that sense, but they've had more success than some mainstream bands whilst maintaining that independence through the record label and through doing it their own way, which is massively admirable.
Lovely. So who would you say is your favourite NoFX member?
The eternal question. You see, I waver again, like with the favourite songs and all that, because there's so much to like about all of them. I think personally, they're all made up of more pros than cons. Some days I actually feel like it's smelly, like Eric Sandin, just because what a drummer to begin with, but also I think he keeps them quite grounded in a strange way.
I think that I think he represents the heart of the band.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he is in a way, but more often than not, it comes back to Melvin again. Utterly irresistible. So, yep, today I'm going to say Eric Melvin.
So Eric Melvin is 2-0.
And rightly so. Absolutely deserved. Well, thank you ever so much for the interview, Red. I felt very interviewed. You're a wonderful interviewer.
And you have been a marvellous guest for this, our second episode. We've got to learn a little bit about yourself and your relationship to NoFX. And I feel more knowledgeable as a result.
I'm sure all that knowledge is just half-remembered crap I got out of some website a million years ago. So when we get all the messages coming in going, "Oh, actually, you got that wrong," then that's going to be it's going to show us both up.
I don't know. I don't think that we ever get anything wrong on this podcast. And that is why my favourite NoFX album is Dude Ranch.
Yeah, mine too.
Lovely. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Eddie.
Oh, you're welcome, Red.
And we'll see you all soon.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Punk Rock Elite. It was a Pick Scraped and Frootcake co-production by Eddie French and Red Redmond. If you're not following us on Instagram or subscribed to the podcast, please do. The main theme and production was done by Eddie French. Please contact us at punkrockelitepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you.